Okay, well, today we're going to continue our theme on distribution. Um, but today, instead of having a monomial like x times x plus 2, now we're going to have two polynomials multiplied. So it would be something like x plus 2 times x plus 2. Okay. So for our first example, we have x squared minus 4x plus 8 times 5x minus 3. Okay, so let's think about this here first. So what are we going to do first with x squared then?
We're going to multiply it with the other x.
Yeah, so we're going to take x squared and we're going to multiply it by 5x. Then we're going to take x squared and we're going to multiply it by negative 3. Does that make sense so far? Okay, so that's the first phase. Then the second phase, we're going to take this term and multiply it by 5x. And then we're going to take this term and multiply it by negative 3.
Which one do you do first?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But normally it's easiest to start over at the left, I think, for me, just to keep track of things. And then you're going to take 8, you're going to multiply it by 5x. You're going to take 8 and you're going to multiply it by negative 3. So for our first one, we would have, let's see, 5x to the third, right? X squared times 5x to the third, minus, it's going to be 3x squared. Okay, then we're going to have minus 4x times 5x. What does that equal?
So if I'm getting this right, so is everything on the left side is timesing everything on the right side, and then everything on the right side is timesing everything on the left side?
Well, it's more going this direction.
Because it looks like the 5x isn't timesing the x squared.
So x squared times 5x. So this right here, right, is just 5x times x squared,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So this would have like a 1 in front of it.
So
Does that
then
make
it
sense?
would be 5x to the third,
Right, which is what's right here.
and then you subtract 4x from 5x.
Well,
and
we're
then-
still foiling, or we're still expanding this, right?
So negative 4x.
So
times-
what's negative 4x times 5x?
So follow your little diagrams there, and sometimes if you do it in different colors, it helps. So if you're putting different colors, like take the x squared and draw it to both numbers with orange, and then take the 4x, negative 4x, and draw it to both numbers in there, and do that. I'll show you one other way real quickly. I haven't shown you this. Another way is to do this. You go x squared times 5x minus 3 minus 4x times 5x minus 3 plus 8 times 5x minus 3. That's a lot more writing, but what you're in a sense doing is you're taking this x squared and multiplying it by both. You're taking the negative 4x and multiplying it by both, okay? You're taking the 8 and multiplying it by both. Okay, so this is one way of writing it. This is another way where you go up and over and just follow what you're doing there, okay? But if it gets, and like I said, you could use, like, make these orange, make these a color, so that you can see them, make them red, and then make these black, and you would see that distribution a little easier. Does that make sense? Okay, so those are some keys, because it gets confusing, I agree, but what he's saying is exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's easiest to just be methodical and just, start with this, multiply it here, multiply it here, start with this, multiply it here, multiply it here, like so. Okay, so what's our
Hence
next one
why
here?
it's called multiple distribution.
Right.
So yesterday you did single distribution. Today you're doing multiple distribution because you're multiplying several things times that one. Okay.
Okay, so negative 4x times 5x is?
Negative 20x squared.
Okay, negative 4x times negative 3?
12x.
Okay, 8 times 5x?
40x.
There we go. Now we're on roll. And 8 times negative 3?
Negative 24.
Okay, so can we combine like terms? Are there any like terms here? Well, there's only one with a unit of x to the third, so that's here. We've got two that are x to the x squared, so that's minus 23x. Or 23x squared, excuse me. Then we've got two that are x's, so that's plus 52x minus 24. And that's what you get when you do the multiple distribution of that. Okay, next example.
So what was the answer?
Right here at the bottom.
Yep. I have it. You have it, May. I can tell it to you.
There you go.
Can I erase this?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go again. So, what's our first step?
Multiply the x's together. So 2x times x
Yep, which is going to be 2x squared.
Yep.
Then what's next?
Then multiply the 2x with the 3.
The negative 3.
Or
Yep.
the negative 3.
So that's going to be minus 6x.
And then the positive 5 with the x. And then the positive 5 with the negative 3.
Okay, so now we can combine like terms. So 2x squared is still the same. We have a minus 6x and a positive 5x, so that's minus x minus 15.
Can we simplify it more?
I don't believe so. Nope.
No.
Okay, now we're going to do one that's a little more complex.
Wait, wouldn't it be 1x squared because you're subtracting an x?
No.
1x squared.
Yeah, it's 2x squared minus x.
You have to have like terms, remember? X and x squared are not like terms.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I was starting now.
Okay, now, we're going to have n times n squared minus 2 times n minus 4. That's quite the 4. There we go. Okay, so in this situation, we actually have 3 of these, right? So there's there's a little bit more going on. So the way you do this is it's easiest to just start with the first one, just like you would do normally. And then once you've expanded this first portion, then you can multiply it by the third one. So
But
just-
you multiply everything by n.
Right. So for here, you're gonna multiply this out, and so you'll expand this portion.
And then you do n squared times n.
Then you're gonna take this portion and multiply it by this here.
Well, isn't-
I'll expand it and show
Isn't
you.
there like imaginary one in between the parentheses that times the n and times the -4, so the parentheses would go away?
So we're following basically the same process. So we kind of do this first. So once we expand this, then we're gonna get something down here, and then we'll just multiply that just like we do with the two when we have two of them in a row. If that makes any sense.
So it would be 2n squared minus 2n.
Okay, so let's just do this methodically here.
Yeah.
So we would have n times n squared, so that's n to the third, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay, then we have n times 2, so that's minus 2n. Okay, so that's what we got for this first portion. Okay, now we take that first portion and we do basically the same thing we just did on the other problems. So now we're going to start with this term. So it's going to be n to the fourth. Then we're going to multiply that by the -4, so that's minus 4n to the third minus 2n squared plus 8n. Okay, so that's going to equal...
That's it.
Oh, yeah, I think that is it.
So n to the fourth minus 4n to the third minus
I don't know.
2n squared plus 8n.
Okay, is anyone still writing this down?
I'm not.
You're not? Okay. Okay, that's all for 11.5. Now we're on to 11.6. So this is the multiple distributive property. Something like that. Okay. So our big idea is if we have a plus b squared, what does that effectively equal?
A squared plus b squared.
That's what a lot of people think, yeah. That's the first impulse we have,
Would it
yeah.
be ab squared?
No. So what this is effectively, is
A
think about it.
A plus b times a plus b.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so this is effectively a plus b times a plus b. Just like if we have 2 squared, it's going to equal 2 times 2. Or if, etc. So, yeah. So that's, and then to do this, of course, we just do what we were doing before to distribute. So let's think about, we're gonna actually, I think, okay, so let's see what this actually equals. So this would be a squared plus
B squared.
ab plus, I'm gonna say ab again, just because they're, it's effectively, I'll keep them in the same order, just to make it clear. So that's this times this, right? Plus b squared. So that's the same as a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So now, what's interesting about this is that whenever you have the two terms that are squared like this, you're always going to end up with an answer in this form, as long as it's a positive between the two. So you're always going to get the first term squared plus 2 of the a times the b of them plus b squared. Okay, we'll do an example with a number this time, kind of like we did yesterday. So let's calculate 53 squared. So that's the same as 50 plus 3 times 50 plus 3, right? That makes sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So we can do the same process, right? So we would have 50 times 50, which is 2,500. Then we have 50 times 3, so that's plus 150. Then we have 3 times 50 plus 150. Then we have 3 times 3 plus 9. So that's 328. Is that 2809?
150. Okay. $2,500 156.
So yeah, again, just to reiterate what I did earlier, now I'll expand on it a little more. So whenever you have a plus b squared, that's going to always lead to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Whenever you have a minus b squared, that's going to lead to a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Whoa, that's bad. 2. So that's important. That if you memorize that, it'll probably help sometimes to make you be able to solve things quicker.
After the minus 2ab, it's still plus b squared.
Correct.
It's not, that doesn't change.
Because what happens if I take a negative and multiply it by a negative?
It's positive, right?
So it's negative b times negative b is what you're getting, so it makes it positive.
So it's positive either way.
Positive either way. The only thing that changes is that number in front of the, or the sign in front of the 2.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if we can do this in practice. So if we have 7c plus 5 squared,
7c plus 5.
that's going to equal
Correct?
7c squared plus 2 times, what is it, AB? 7c times 5. Am I doing this right? Okay, and then we've got plus 5 squared, I believe. I think that looks right. Okay, so this is using what the formula that we just created, right? So 7c squared is going to be what?
7c squared would be
49. Oh, whoa, that changed.
So this would be 49c squared, right?
Yep.
Okay. 7c times 5 is 35c, right?
Wait, are you sure that's 7c times 5?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said plus 5.
Nope, I might have said plus 5, but if I did, that was wrong. Yeah, so 7c times 5 would be 35c.
Okay.
So 35c times 2 is 70c plus 25. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is just to write out 7c plus 5 times 7c plus 5, which is like we've been doing otherwise. Okay, then there's a third way to think about this. So if we create a box, so if we think about this as 7c 5 7c 5, so our
Is that the third way?
this is the third way. Yeah, yep. So if we take 7c times 7c, that's going to be 49c squared. If we take 7c times 5, that's going to be 35c. We take 7c times 5 over here, that's 35c. And if we take 5 times 5, that's 25. So there's all of our terms. So we have 49c once, 35c twice, and 5 times 5 once. So that again is just going to work out to be 49c squared plus 70c plus 25. Does that make sense to everybody?
7c plus 5.
Okay. Now.
That's so funny.
Yeah, what's so funny? Nothing.
Pay attention, okay?
What's Ned doing?
Man.
I knew there was something going on with Ned.
I don't know what I did.
Huh,
Okay, now.
You're paying attention. You do too.
good, I'm glad.
A good student.
Define good.
I'm listening.
Jinx.
Okay, now we're going to talk about another kind of shortcut.
Another shortcut.
The fourth way.
Okay, so if we have x, whoa, I did this to myself. So if we have x, that's not an x. Okay, x plus y times x minus y, that's always going to equal x squared minus y squared. So let's do an example. So if we have 60 minus 4 times 60,
Plus 4.
what am I doing?
You mean 60 plus 4 and 60 minus?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Is it? have the same
Yeah,
answer?
this would be more consistent, right? with
Yeah.
what we're showing up above. Okay.
So you-
Okay, so this is gonna be 60 times 60, which is 3600, right?
Yeah.
60 times 4, which is what, negative 240?
Yeah.
Or yeah, since it's negative 4. Minus or plus 4 times 60, which is, yeah, 240. Then it's going to be minus 16. So these cancel, and we get 3600 minus 16. So this is the same as 60 squared minus 4 squared. So, see, we have this same format. X squared minus y squared. We had our two numbers set up, and sure enough, that's the answer we get. Which is, what is that, 35, yeah, 3584.
$3,584, that's a big number.
It is a big number. We did it all by hand.
Not as big as 16 cubed, probably.
Yeah, 16, or wait, yeah, I'm not sure.
That's correct, 4096. This is 4096, that's 3,000.
Yep. Okay, 4x to the third plus 5 times 4x to the third minus 5. Okay, so there's two different ways we can solve this, right? We can either go each term multiply it out like we have been, or we can take our shortcut. So what would our shortcut look like for this one?
Uh, 4x squared,
4x to the third, you mean?
I mean, yeah, 4x to the third times 4x to the third. Or, not what I meant. We're doing the plus and minus thing.
So remember, x plus y
Yeah,
times x minus y
I forgot to put that
equals x squared minus y squared, right? Is that right? I think that's right.
down.
Yeah.
Let me write that down.
Okay, so what would that look like here then? So what number are we squaring for x?
9x cubed. Or
That does look like a 9, yeah. It's a 4. But yeah, so it would be 4x to the third squared, okay, minus y squared. So y would be our 5, right? So that would be minus 5. Well, minus, let's see, minus 5 squared. Yeah. So,
What are we looking at?
yeah, that's correct. So our b term positive, or our positive y is 5. So it's going to be minus our positive 5 squared. So then that's going to give us, what is 4x to the third squared?
That'll be 4x to the third times 4x to the third.
It would.
x to the 6.
16x to the 6, yep. And that's going to be minus what? Minus 25. So let's check this. So one way we could check it is let x equal 2. So we would have equals 16 times 2 to the 6th minus 25 equals some number. What is 16 times 2 to the 6th?
60 or 2 to the 6, I believe, is 64. So 16 times 64.
16 times 64? I think it's 1,024. Minus 25 equals 999. Then let's try it up here. So this is going to be 4 times 2 to the 3rd plus 5 times 4 times 2 to the 3rd minus 5. So this is effectively, what is that, 8 times 4? Is that 24? Or wait, 8 times 4 would be 32, right?
Wait,
32
yeah.
plus 5. And then this is 32 minus 5. So that's going to be 37 times
Well, you just
28,
subtract
right?
five.
Times 28. What is 37 times 28? Oh wait, did I do something wrong? Yes,
Yes, you did.
37 times 27. What does that equal?
37, wait.
99.
So we got the same answer. So yeah, this technique gets us to the right answer.
Now, if you don't remember the technique, what can you always do?
Check your notes.
What else can you always do?
Do it the long way.
Do it the long way. Just put them out and just do your distribution like we did in this section before, 11.5.
That's what I did. And
So if you don't remember the shortcuts to either of these, you can always write down what it means and just do the distribution.
What's the
Okay.
shortcut for the other one?
It's the b squared or a squared minus or plus 2ab plus b squared.
Say that again.
A squared plus or minus, depending on what your sign is, 2ab plus b squared.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a break and then we'll come back and do problems on the board.
And you'll try them and then that will really get it to sink into your brain.
Exactly.
Here's your gun.